I am country rock artist Suzi Kory, and this is Over the Bridge, the story behind the music. I have a single called A Better Man that was inspired by the true story of a friend of mine who I work very closely with, and he's a musician as well. And so the story is more his than it is mine, but I was so inspired by it that I wanted to write this song because I really felt that a lot of people needed to hear this message. So basically what happened was, during this entire time with the pandemic, of course, a lot of musicians who are used to being on the road all of a sudden had to come off the road. And I noticed that many of them were taking that time for self-reflection and kind of figuring out their lives and starting to know themselves better. And all of a sudden they had a different perspective on life. Because, you know, I personally haven't been on the road touring all over the world, but a lot of these people that I'm talking about have been. And what is considered normal on the road is, by any standard of any other person who lives a normal life where you go to your job, you come home to your house and your family, it is not the norm. But of course, when you're in it, you don't understand how it's affecting you physically, emotionally, mentally, until, you know, all of a sudden they were not on the road and realized that that's not necessarily a healthy lifestyle. You know, of course they enjoy what they do, but there's a lot of things that can affect you and prices to pay for that by being away constantly. And you know, although it's not as raunchy as the 80s were, but there's a lot of stuff that still goes on the road that's, you know, it's a crazy lifestyle. And you know, so anyhow, many of these musician friends of mine, they did a lot of self-reflecting when they had to be at home and kind of a lot of times alone with themselves. And then all of a sudden you realize that, you know, life doesn't have to necessarily be that way, and there's other things that are priorities too that are more important, and that maybe the lifestyle you've been leading is not necessarily the lifestyle you want to have, but because when you're surrounded by it, it becomes your norm. So as I was saying in the beginning of this video, you know, one of my closest friends, he was going through this, and probably the person who made the most changes in his life during that period. You know, a lot of very positive changes, and it was beautiful to watch and to see, and it inspired me to write this song, again, because I felt like he wasn't the only one. And, you know, not to generalize, but for many males, which, you know, I've talked to about this, they will admit that it's hard to have those conversations with other males, whereas females have friends they confide in. With guys, you know, you're always putting up this front, trying to be tough, especially if you're a musician on the road and everything else. It's not the place to be having those touchy-feely kind of discussions. And one other thing that I realized is, when you're on the road with all these other people, they're probably going through the same exact emotions that you're going through. So it's kind of hard, you know, to help each other out when everybody is going through that, and you need someone kind of who's outside of that and able to offer some solid advice that can see it from a different perspective. So anyhow, you know, without going into too much detail, it's just a song about hope, that at any time in your life you can make those changes. Once you decide that, you know, it's time to make some changes, there's nothing stopping you from doing that. And it was beautiful for me to witness somebody going through that and to open up their heart to me, and, you know, to give them that space and that trust, knowing that no matter what they said, they weren't going to be judged. And, you know, I hope that I was able to offer good advice, which in the song, you know, I said, forgive and forget. And, you know, you can't live with regret, which is why I'm wearing this shirt right now. It's all about moving forward, forgiving yourself mostly, reaching out to people that you think you've wronged, and, you know, asking for forgiveness, but not necessarily waiting for them to be able to give you that forgiveness, because they may not be ready. But, you know, there's always hope. Every day is a new day. And when you decide to make the change, that's really the first step forward to a new life. So I hope you enjoy the song.